right, I'll hereby call the meeting for the Historic Preservation Board to order. We'll all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jesse, if you'd do roll call.
Chair Clark,
Present.
Vice Chair Stark,
Here.
Member Horning,
Here.
Member Gerstenlauer,
Here.
Member Bryant,
Here.
Member Lamug,
Here.
Member Jones,
Here.
Member Getz,
Here.
Member Day,
Here.
and everyone is present this evening.
Thank you very much. So we have staff here today. Is there any other opening business that needs to be attended to? Otherwise, we can go into the review of the minutes. So, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the April 13th meeting? And does anybody want to entertain a motion to approve?
I would so move.
Member Jones so moved to approve the minutes as written. Do I have a second?
I second.
I'm sorry?
I second.
Member Lamont seconded. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Minutes are approved as presented and written. We have no items of old business, but we do have the first item of new business, which is the certificate of appropriateness for 1007 11th Street.
Good evening, Melissa Dunklin, Planning and Zoning Manager.
Good evening, Melissa.
Hello. Okay. The request before you is for approval of a minor certificate of appropriateness for 1007 11th Street. The applicant is requesting to install vinyl siding, stack stone, and a vented soffit. The applicant recently purchased the property with the intent to restore and renovate the structure. The estimated cost of work is valued to be around $18,000. Here is a photograph showing the existing conditions of the Florida cottage that was constructed in 1915. And I just want to point out the slide says 1920, but that was an error.
Yes.
Okay. The horizontal vinyl siding will be the color located in the bottom left-hand corner. It's called Harvard Slate. Okay. They plan to use traditional white soffit. On the front vinyl gable vent, the applicant is proposing to install a white vinyl vented soffit. Okay. The Lewis Stone Crest vinyl stack stone will be installed on the bottom 3 feet on the front of the home. In accordance with Section 3.24.8A of the Land Development Code, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation were applied when reviewing this application, and staff has determined all requirements were met. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request for a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed exterior alterations of 1007 11th Street. Likewise, it is requested that this board approve COA 21-00004. At this time, staff is available for questions.
Any members have? I'll open the floor to the members to ask any questions or make any statements.
We were questioning, Melissa, on this, on the map that was in the recent survey, whether or not this actually is contributing or non-contributing per the location of the map.
I don't believe it was a contributing structure. I'm not 1,000% on that, to be honest, though.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I had brought that up, and then, just because in looking at the map, there's only one non-contributing structure on that block, and it's according to the map, it shows it to be the location next door, not this particular site. That's,
That's non.
and
Okay.
if it's a contributing structure, then the vinyl siding becomes an issue.
Okay. I don't know. I can look at it. I don't have a copy of the map with me, so.
This, here, you want this?
I printed
But
it
it
out.
doesn't really, I mean, it's in the very corner right there. Right, so you don't know if it's the map or the, right.
Yeah. The actual list from the report, which I didn't print out because it's multiple pages to get to it, had it listed under the contributing structures, not the non-contributing. And that's the other reason why I was concerned.
Yeah. On the other hand, we don't want to delay them any longer than necessary, so whatever we need to do to speed the process for them.
I do believe, since it was on the list, that we should consider it a contributing structure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it make any difference? I know that we have the regulations as they are, but right now, the fact that lumber is scarce and prohibitively costly, and it could delay, if they were required to use lumber, it could delay the renovation to the point in time where this may deteriorate further.
But I believe that that portion of the building is not wood, isn't that stucco?
The left portion is a stucco. The right was probably it looks to be like it was an enclosed porch or whatnot, but you've got lap siding up above the window line. Just looking at how the steps are and the foundation of the building, I would say that it was
Yep.
a porch up in the front.
Right,
And
and
it's
up
all-
above the porch, it looks like that may be lumber up there.
Yeah, it's a wood up above, but my understanding of the standards is that any repairs would be in like material, so
Right.
the vinyl siding would not comply with the interior standards. Now, if they were to put the vinyl siding over it without removing any of the wood below it, it's has the potential to be reverted back to, but it doesn't meet the interior standards as far as, using vinyl siding, because in 1915, we didn't have any vinyl siding. The previous meeting, we talked about using a hardy board, which is a cement board that mimics wood and can do that, and would be considered to be an acceptable material because it's basically still using the same construction techniques, has that same look. It's just more durable for Florida. But vinyl siding at this point in time doesn't meet that.
I'm not sure if the applicant is present.
I don't see
Doesn't
this.
seem like it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was saying, that also applies to the stone as well, the stacked stone, since
Well,
it's a contributing structure?
The stacked stone it's a vinyl panel.
Oh, that's all vinyl?
Simulating stone,
Okay.
which obviously would not even comply because the structure was never built with a 3-foot stone
Right.
foundation. So
If we, if it gets denied today, they just bring it back again? That's what happens?
They can bring it back
If it gets
again?
denied, they can bring it back. They've got to go through the process again. I
From
don't
the
know-
beginning.
I don't remember
Fro-
if there's a time factor or
Go
not,
ahead.
but,
Richard.
Yes. Rather than denying it, if we deny it and they have to bring it back, do they have to pay a whole new application fee?
Ms.
Yeah.
Jones, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just make sure you're speaking loudly into the mic.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
If we were to postpone it, then would they need to pay a new application fee?
They would not. You can continue it to the
Yeah,
next
if you-
meeting if you would like.
if that's the preference, is to continue it to allow staff to verify that it's either a contributing or non-contributing.
So let me ask this question, to speed that up a little bit more, because that would be 2 months from now. Is there a way for this board, if it's just contributing, non-contributing, to take a vote by email?
I don't believe that is an option, but what I do believe is that you can approve it with conditions if you want to condition that the siding is wood instead of vinyl and that they not install the vinyl at the bottom 3 feet,
Yeah,
like whatever you
The
would like.
simulated stone.
Yeah, because you don't want to really hold them up. That's a long time to have to
Right.
wait if in fact it's in place.
Right, if you feel comfortable spelling out those conditions, we can approve it with conditions.
Would they be allowed to use like faux stone to replace that vinyl instead of just using like the sheets? Could they actually have
Well,
fake stone put on there? I don't know
if it's
that
a
needs to be-
contributing structure, the addition of the masonry stone would no longer be basically historically correct. So that would not be an element that would be considered to be allowed either. So it's just a matter of whether they work within that. So, if it's non-contributing, it's not a big issue. That's just, making things look a little nicer.
Well, that is something that we could perhaps say to resolve that on the bottom, to resolve it with staff.
Well, you're going to be giving staff direction. So if you want to make a motion to,
Paula's better at that.
if there's a motion to approve it contingent on the verification that it's non-contributing, then that's fine. But you definitely want to spell out the motion that it would only be approved if it were found to be a non-contributing.
Yeah, so the first part of that discussion has to be, are we actually okay with the elements being changed if it's non-contributing? So if we just determine that, then we can say, okay, we're good with that as long as it's non-contributing. And then if it is contributing, what do we want? Everything placed back to the other,
Yeah.
materials. So there's kind of a two-part thing to do it that way.
Correct. If it's non-contributing, the use of vinyl siding, it matches what's happened to it next door on both sides. Both of those structures have vinyl siding. So it would
And
fit
they-
within there, but it wouldn't, but if it's actually a contributing structure, then we're circumventing the whole goal of historic preservation by allowing them to make this,
And those two
Facade
other
change.
structures that have vinyl siding are contributing.
based on the map that I saw that's in their 2020 report. One of them is a contributing structure, the other one is not.
Okay, so the contributing one with vinyl is not in compliance.
Correct, but it probably was also done prior to the enacting of
The ordinance,
our
yeah.
ordinance.
It was done before this board was established.
Yeah.
Okay. Take it away, Paula.
Well, so if it's non-contributing, is everyone okay with the elements as presented? That would be your vinyl siding, your stacked brick look. Are
Well, I
those the
think-
only ones?
If it's non-contributing, we really don't.
If it's
have anything
non-contributing, it's not.
Well, you have to approve what staff has recommended. Yeah. So you have to have that first, so you can say, part of the motion is if it is non-contributing, we approve per staff's recommendation. If it's, unless we have some other alternatives that we want to address. And then if it is contributing, then we have to determine which elements we would like for them to go back to adjust.
So then, are you making the motion, Paula?
Well, not until you guys tell me what you want.
I think that sounds great.
Well, Paula, you can make the motion. If nobody seconds it, you've got your answer.
I'm not sure they're understanding where we are here in the process.
Do you want me to repeat it back just to make sure? So we would be, well, I'm not even a voting member, by the way, but, but it would be approving either, if it's non-contributing, then it would be approving based on the staff's recommendation exactly as is. If it's a contributing structure, then we would be approving conditionally if they do not include the vinyl siding and also the faux brick, and instead they would be replacing it with wood.
Well,
They'd be
if
updating
it's,
wood.
if it's
See,
found to
that's
be
the part, the question that has to be
if it's
answered.
found to
Okay.
be a contributing structure, vinyl siding would not be allowed.
Well, that's what I mean.
So it would be denied based on that.
Okay.
There's no specifics that you'd have to do. It would be denied. They would have to come back with
Oh, you
a-
can't say it would be
thought that was the
approved
wood
if,
They didn't give us an alternative.
and we can't give them an
You can't- yeah,
alternative.
we can't sit there and do that, but we can say, hey, you can come back and tell us what you're going to do, which is in compliance if it's found to be a contributing structure.
Okay, understood.
Although I think they need to be given some of that direction, otherwise they can come back with something that won't work again.
So
Can
can
we
we
recommend-
make a motion that if it's a non-contributing, if it's non-contributing structure, then that we will approve the recommendations as staff has placed them. If we find that, and the second part of that is if staff finds that it is a contributing factor, that we would recommend that they visit the architectural standards?
No, you would deny it.
We
And
would
then they would
deny it.
have to, then they would have to come up with a solution that fits within the architectural standards and the historic preservation
And
ordinance.
pay a new fee and bring
Well,
it forward.
correct.
Bring it back
But
to the
that,
board.
that fee is what's covering staff, to review that. And
Yeah, but I have issue with that.
I do too.
Can we?
Thank you, Tony.
Can we postpone it then to the second, if it's found to be a contributing structure, that
Yeah.
we postpone it to be revisited back to the board?
Well, what I would recommend is that we call a special meeting and not make these people wait 2 months.
I agree.
Exactly, because
That-
I
we've
agree.
been having a
That
lot
can
of
happen.
special meetings.
that can happen.
That it would be revisited next month and
Next
we would have a
month.
second meeting.
Our meeting schedule is the minimum.
Right.
If things come up that need to be addressed, then that can be done.
I
So
have
if-
a question for future reference. If the applicant was here, would they be able to go, yeah, I'll just do that instead?
Yes, they can
Yes,
tell us what they're going to do.
Okay.
It would have been in their best interest to be
They,
here.
they could,
tonight.
because then it would get onto the record as far as what needs to happen. So from the pulse that I'm getting, is I'm hearing that you want to do a continuance and let staff determine whether or not it's contributing or not, and then bring it back.
And then make a motion for a special meeting.
Yes.
I don't think we need to make a motion for the special meeting, because the staff can schedule it. Correct? It's
Well,
not,
if staff doesn't know that we want to have a special meeting and they just do it to the next one, that's 2 months.
So
I'm
we
not
have
for
to
making
give
the people wait 2
that's,
months.
that's staff
Can we-
direction.
Can we
No,
put
so
that
we
in the
have to
motion?
give staff direction.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
But that's
So-
what we have to lay out.
To the best of my knowledge, we do not need to make a motion to postpone this. So we can postpone this, give staff the time to verify whether it's a contributing or non-contributing, and then bring it back as soon as possible, if necessary, a special meeting, if that works.
I do believe that has to be a motion.
Do you believe it? Okay.
So then,
In which case, I'll entertain a motion to,
I will so
Postpone.
move to postpone.
Member Jones,
for a
motion to
special
postpone,
meeting
I
in
second.
June.
seconded by Member Bryant. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed likewise? All right, this item has been postponed.
And that meeting will be held on June the 8th
June 8th.
At 6.
at 6.
Thank you.
Thank
Same location.
Same station. Same time, same station.
All right, the next item, item B, the certificate of appointments for 1101 New York Avenue. You have the floor, Melissa.
Thank you. The second request is for approval of a minor certificate of appropriateness for 1101 New York Avenue. The applicant is requesting to restore the front facade trim work and rear porch paint to its original color. The 1,742 square foot structure was constructed in 1926 and has been maintained as a commercial building with a general office use. Here is a photograph showing the original paint color. The paint color will be desert wood. In accordance with Section 3.248A of the Land Development Code, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation were applied when reviewing this application, and staff has determined all requirements were met. Therefore, staff recommends approval. And likewise, it is requested that this board approve COA 21-00005. Staff is available for questions at this time.
I'm sorry, did you say 5 or 4?
I said
My sheet says 4.
5. We're on the second item.
Yes.
Oops. Started over.
Oh, they both say 4.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it should be 5. I apologize. We had staff turnover at the last minute.
Down in the
and,
footnote on the
Yes, on the very
picture that
bottom.
says 5.
Richard.
Okay.
and
in
I'm,
the tiny print.
presenting on
In the
behalf
footer.
of staff.
Just want to make sure we keep straight on the numbers, that's all.
Thank you.
All right. Are you finished with your presentation at this point?
Yes.
All right. Then we'll open the floor to any member who wishes to speak.
Can you go back, Melissa, to the trim,
Sure.
just to,
The color or this picture?
well, you were talking about the trim in the back.
Oh,
Is,
yes.
is the porch that they're talking about actually the front porch? Or, because it says back, and that's,
Yeah, it says back.
because there's actually no back to this building in that, along
Well,
that.
maybe what we're
Well,
looking
this-
at here is the back.
Yeah, this
No,
is the
that's the
back.
front.
This isn't
That's-
the side that faces New York, right?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
this is
Yeah.
fronting
Oh,
New
it
York,
is?
so it's the
Yes.
front.
It's the front.
Wow.
The back, if I remember correctly,
Oh, yes,
the
it is.
entire facade down that block is continuous.
Well, part of it is, the elevation is a little different.
Well, the elevation changes, but from the street, it's basically an unbroken wall. That's why I
Right,
was
but
trying
that's
to
why I was wondering
understand
about the trim.
the terminology of back, whether it was just a mistake on the part of the applicant.
I'm not really sure. Just looking at the aerial, it looks like it's kind of an L-shaped.
The lot's
Parcel?
L-shaped, yes.
Right, so I don't know if there's anything back there or not. So it's hard to tell.
Okay.
So it's going from a darker color to a lighter color.
Yes, ma'am.
And applicant's not here either, for clarification. The entire building is being stained or painted to that color, or is it just the wood portico porch above?
It is my understanding. And Jesse, do you want to read this into the record before I proceed? We did receive correspondence from Ms. Clements.
Yes, and I was directed to inform the board that Ms. Dolly Clements provided notice of her absence this evening, that she could not be present.
Okay.
Is she the
and-
property owner?
I believe
Yes,
so,
yes,
yes.
yes. And she did issue a statement, and basically it just says, "My intent is to restore the bottom trim of my porch back to the original look and repaint the porch color because the seal on the cedar has worn off. The trim needs to be put back because the sun is causing interior damage or heat to my clients and employees." So the way it's written here, I think staff made an error. I don't think it's the back porch. I think it's the porch
Yeah, the
back
front-
to the original
Back
color.
to the original color. But the comment of trim has me a little,
So she's going to add trim back to it because they took the trim off when they
but there
put
was,
the cedar
but there
on.
was no trim. It was a vertical board with those slight arc cuts, and they went to a horizontal, basically lap siding style. So I don't know, without understanding how she's adding to the trim element, I don't know what the intent is. From a color standpoint, historic preservation's not worried about color because color's changeable. I would just want to understand what trim, because when I look at the old, the photo of the original that's on attachment B, you have a horizontal board, a single horizontal board trim piece going across and two corner trim pieces, but the bottom is not trim, it's just painted wood.
Right. But if you look at it, and I don't know how she's going to do this, if you look at it, that board was cut a little bit shorter to have a tiny arch on each one of those.
Correct, but the boards were trimmed, it wasn't a trim piece, it was a board cut, which
Right,
isn't the
I
same.
understand that, but if you look at the new one,
Yeah,
I don't know how you can make that
yeah.
the same.
Because it looks almost like it's the same layering.
Yeah, it's not an actual applied trim piece
There's not
by
an
the
applied
definition of
trim
what trim would be. It's a,
But there is trim on the edges and that one horizontal.
It looks like it's got some kind of trim on the corner pieces going up, no?
It
I know
doesn't
it's
seem
hard to
like,
tell.
yes, the corner, with a lap-sided board, you have trim corners.
from the application though, it seems as if they're using the word trim, but really this is all about paint. It doesn't seem like they're trying to do any structural
Well,
trim change. That's what it seems.
But the paint wouldn't change the issue of the sun exposure. And to be honest, adding additional trim coming down, I'm not sure would really accomplish much as far as blocking sun, because, I mean, it's how far down. She doesn't indicate what the height of the current clearance versus what the original was. So I don't know whether or not it's actually even relevant to add a piece of trim there. I mean, from a historic preservation, I mean, the a wood porch above, is generally kind of an accessory add-on anyway. And to be honest, I don't see,
But neither one is historic. the way she
yeah,
got it now.
neither one is really of historical value. So if she wants to add a little bit of piece of trim coming down, it would have been helpful to understand how far down she's talking about doing it to determine whether or not, because that is in the public right of way, and whether or not that's going to interfere with any clearances of movement in the public right of way. I mean, there's other methodology in which to deal with sun intrusion coming through the windows. You can put up a UV blocking glazing to the inside of your window that's not shaded or tinted, so they still comply with the non-tinted window and still accomplish that. So my personal opinion is I don't understand the question or the logic of adding more
Well, I
trim.
don't either, but I'm not sure that's really the decision that needs to be made, because if you look at it, I don't think it's going to solve it. So she'll probably be back here with something else once she puts it up and it
Possibly.
didn't work.
After she spent a lot of money on paint.
So I would make a motion to approve her request as presented. And then when it doesn't solve her heat problem, it'll be a whole nother thing.
So
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? No further discussion? We'll call the question. Bobby, I'm sorry, Member Bryant?
I just wanted to make sure that, but when it says restoring the front trim, so she'll be adding the front trim back.
Yes.
And that's my understanding.
So the way it is now isn't historical.
It's
When
gonna
she
be-
made the change, it was
She
not
already
done
changed
to,
it, yeah.
right.
The-
So if
look
you
at the
put it
windows
back,
there.
it's more historical than it is now.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I was
It
making
doesn't,
sure.
it doesn't impact positively or negatively. So, any further discussion? All right, we'll have the motion. All those in favor of the approval for the application COA 21 quadruple zero 5, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
And at this point in time, we would open the floor for public comment. Absence of public to comment, we'll close that and open up the floor for individual board comments. I'll start on my left and we can work our way around the room. Ms. Bryant, or Ms. Jones?
Major mistake.
Well, I'm setting the timer, 3 minutes.
Okay, I have a question for staff. Is that you? Okay.
Melissa?
Yes, I have a question for staff, and you may not be able to answer this. I get a lot of different notices from the city, and I recently got a notice, and perhaps Paula may know the answer. There's a committee, it's some kind of a development review committee, and this Wednesday, the 13th, they're having a hearing at 3 o'clock for 2 agenda items, and one of them is a preliminary subdivision plan review, and it's at 2 or 3 o'clock. And it piqued my attention because, number one, it was in the middle of the day, and it was a subdivision for like 73 lots. And so I was just curious whether all of the subdivision review and hearings for the city are in the middle of the day.
So the preliminary subdivision plans go to the Development Review Committee, which is a committee made up of staff members, and that meeting is held the second and fourth Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. Staff only makes a recommendation, and then that item goes to City Council, and City Council actually approves it. Kind of like when we come here, we make a recommendation, but you're the approving body. We'll make the recommendation as DRC to City Council, and City Council makes the
Okay.
final decision.
Now, at that meeting, do you accept comments from the public, or does the public just come and listen?
It is a public meeting. It is not a public hearing, so the public can attend both in person and virtually, but we do not receive public
Any input?
comments. Correct. We do not
Okay,
receive public
that's what
comments
I
at
needed.
that meeting. However, we do receive public comments at any time. Like if someone wanted to come in tomorrow before the meeting and say, hey, I want to provide a comment, then we would have to include that comment in our staff report that goes to City Council.
Okay, like if someone had a comment about the need for an easement or a right-of-way or the lots being too small or something. I got it. And how does a person watch virtually?
Just, Member Jones, can you get with Melissa after the meeting for that, since it's not historic preservation oriented? Do you have any comments that are historic preservation oriented? I don't want to waste everybody else's time on something that can be a quick staff question or answer afterwards.
Do I have any that are historic preservation oriented? Yes, that first case was troublesome to me, that we didn't already know the answer, whether it was a contributing or non-contributing site. And we seem to spend a lot of time talking about that. That's just an observation.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right. Let me guess.
So I have one question. When a person comes into this part of town that we're overshadowing, are they told before they purchase this property what is going to have to go into remodeling one of these things? I buy a lot of properties. I've gotten lucky. I've not been part of this doing it, but do those people know in advance? Is it something on the MLS? Is there some form of...
Only
From a-
if their real estate agent knows.
From a standpoint of purchasing a property anywhere, their responsibility is to do the due diligence to understand what the zoning, what the future land use, what all the restrictions are, any overlays before they buy the property. When I have a client come to me who says, hey, I'm looking to do this, or worst case scenario, he comes and says, hey, I just bought this property, I want to do, X, Y, Z. It's like, well, that's nice. You can sell it and buy another piece of property somewhere else because you can't do X, Y, Z there. It's really on the, it's the due diligence is on the buyer.
And
They need to do that.
So my other
And that's
question-
all public record information they can find.
Okay, so they do have a spot that they can go to, and they'll tell them you have to use
Oh, absolutely.
plank boards, you have to use, now
When-
does it say, like last time we had a meeting, we approved them to use the Hardy panel in place of it? Does it give them all of these options and such?
And from a historic, if it's in the historic preservation district, that's a public document. They also can check with planning and find that. So they would be given that information. Again, it falls on them to do the due diligence, which means they have to make the phone call or shoot the email or at least troll the public documentation sites to find that.
But, I mean, that is a good point, is whether or not we're updating our site enough for the public to be able to access those things as we make those decisions. So are we doing that?
It's ultimately down to the ADA issue because
We're still working on that?
our ADA issue is what's declining. We're still working. We've got one map that the city's got that's available online, and it hasn't been updated since the ADA issue hit. So you have a general idea of what it is, but you're still going to call staff to verify. So
What does it make that statement on the website? If you need that kind of information, you need to contact whatever department and whatever person or
it's out of my pay grade.
Yeah, we do have a community development webpage, so all the contact information for our department is on there.
because a lot of people don't really understand how to navigate through what pieces go through what department. The general public is, generally doesn't know that.
Yeah, we do have staff available for any walk-ins, phone calls, et cetera, emails. But we also, the city has a business navigator, so he is also assigned to cases like that. If someone needs assistance to walk through a process, he's available to help them walk through a process.
Were there any questions? Paula, you're next. Any comments?
No, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew the Main Street grant that was applied to the state for funding to make application for the district to go on the National Register has made the funding lineup. So that will be this summer probably moving forward, just so you know.
That's good.
Member Horning, did you have any comments?
More work.
Well, I guess I'd just like to report that the construction is going well on the Women's Club and the library. So so far, it's on schedule except for a few materials they aren't really back ordered, but it takes longer for them to come. So we still hope that we'll be able to get into the buildings next fall and that they will be done in June. So we'll just see how that plays out.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for
But
you.
it's exciting to see the men working in there, inside and outside.
Great, thank you. Member Bryant, did you have any comments?
I did. So the only thing that I was a little concerned about was that there was a meeting on April 13th. And so I didn't receive any notification of that meeting. And then I did receive a couple missed calls that day from the city. When I called back, it was just the switchboard. I was concerned that day because I did think, I'm like, it's the second Tuesday. I searched through my email. I even went back to the agenda to make sure there hadn't been a meeting. And then, so I'm a little bit upset that I'm marked as an unexcused absence for a meeting I wasn't notified of. So where was that notification?
I can forward it to you. I send it out and then I blind
Carbon copy?
carbon copy the members so that there's no communication about the agenda items. But I can forward that to you. I apologize that you missed that.
Yeah, and I mean, I've gone through my email multiple times since that, nervous and worried that I had missed something. And then to get here and see unexcused, it, stresses me out a little. So can we just maybe after the meeting double check and make sure you have the right email, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all I have.
Anything else? All right. Member Lamont, did you?
No, thank you.
All right. Member Getz?
Is there anything about historic preservation on the app? Do you know how St. Cloud has its app? Is there anything related to that on the app? Because I've recently found out about this app and started using it, and I own a historic home. And I'm kind of the person you're talking about. When I bought my home, I wasn't even aware of the board or anything like that. So I'm just curious, is there a place, and maybe I could direct more people because I have lots of friends with these old homes, where to go to find out, again, is it like a contributing, non-contributing structure and things like that? Is that all on the website already? If it is, then,
I do not believe so.
okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you get up
So
to
the
answer
city-
that.
So you're asking for more promotion of the app, is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying, where is it? I just heard it's on the website where people can find these things about contributing or non-contributing structures about their own homes.
No.
No, it's not. Okay.
Our contact
Michaela, you can go
information-
to St. Cloud Historic Preservation. It's a Facebook group.
Okay.
If you ask to join, then we control that, and we will let you. Some of that information is on there. The presentation that was given prior to you all switching, coming onto the board, the presentation by the consultants is on there that you can review
Okay.
and things like that. So the architectural surveys there, the old group is there,
Okay.
like the one from 1993 that put all the old ones, really old ones, that's on there.
Okay. Thank you. I was just curious how else to find this information out.
Is that presentation what we're going to see on the 20th?
At the workshop?
Yes.
I'm not really sure. The other consultant that we had on that project, Tony, is the one that's going to be doing the presentation at this meeting. And so she may be doing the longer version,
Okay.
but I don't know. Jesse, do you know?
I don't. She hasn't provided the presentation yet.
Okay. So there's like the long version, and we had like a condensed version from Christine. So I'm not sure which one Laura Lee's doing.
Okay. Member Day, did you have any comments?
No, sir, not at the moment.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. Our next meeting, even though on the agenda it says July 13th, based on today's events, sounds like June 8th at 6 p.m., and hopefully everyone will get that email. Otherwise, we can adjourn.